Well, good afternoon to you. 506 here, News Talk 105.9 WMAL, where we're making sense of the news. Coming up, we'll be joined by Congressman Andrew Clyde. A lot to discuss with him, especially as the word impeachment keeps being bandied around on Capitol Hill. What are the chances that we'll actually see an impeachment proceeding begin on Joe Biden? Do Republicans actually have the stomach to do the people's business? We'll ask Andrew Clyde about that and so much more coming up. And you can join us today at 888-630-9625, 888-630-WMAL. There is some breaking news today that involves the Biden administration once again using the levers of power at their disposal to attack their political opponents. This happens over and over and over again. First, I want to take you back in time. It was November of last year when Joe Biden called for a federal investigation of Elon Musk for his relationship with other countries. He was asked by a Bloomberg reporter, Jenny Leonard, whether he thinks that, quote, Elon Musk is a threat to U.S. national security. Remember, Elon, by that point, had just purchased Twitter. It's now called X, with the promise that he was going to make it a free speech platform, not one controlled by the intelligence agencies of the United States, as it had been in the past. Of course, in 2020, when they censored the internet to rig the election on behalf of Joe Biden. So a Bloomberg reporter says, do you think Elon Musk is a threat to national security? And should the U.S., with the tools you have, investigate his joint acquisition of Twitter with foreign governments, which include the Saudis? Biden answered at the time. He said, quote, I think Elon Musk's cooperation in our technical relationships with other countries is worthy of being looked at. Whether or not he's doing anything inappropriate, I'm not suggesting that. I'm suggesting that it's worth being looked at. He said there are a lot of ways to look at it. That was Joe. And since then, we have seen headline after headline that the Biden administration is hassling, investigating, hectoring Elon Musk and all of his companies. And of course, he's got like SpaceX. He's flying rockets all over the place and then landing them. That's an amazing technology. We didn't used to do that. We just dump them in the ocean and then hope for the best. Now he's landing them back on the platforms. Amazing. And then also he's got Tesla and everything else. He's got some weird ones too. Neuralink, where he wants to link up a computer with people's brains, and they claim it's just for medical purposes. They want to help, people who are neurologically impaired. Sure, maybe, whatever. But, keep those computer chips away from my brain, please. And then Twitter. Twitter's the big one, and that's the free speech one. That's the one where people can say things like, hey, Joe Biden uses a bunch of different aliases to send emails to his son, and they have 20 different bank accounts wherein they're gathering up all of this money from places like China and Ukraine. That's where conversations can happen that reveal that Joe Biden had apparently showered with his daughter at a young age, and it really screwed her up. These are things that you only find out about if you read them on social media. Places like Elon Musk-controlled X, Twitter. It's also the place where Tucker Carlson now has his show, X, Twitter. Remember, the Biden administration was working behind the scenes to shut down the visibility of Tucker Carlson. Remember, during COVID, during the thick of COVID, Tucker would do a segment. Biden administration officials would be communicating with the social media companies. Stop this. They got Facebook to suppress the reach of that content, meaning that fewer people got to see it on their timeline because the Biden administration meddled in that whole thing. Facebook even going back to them at the time saying, I can't find any disinformation in this. Who cares? Shut it down. So they knocked down all the traffic. So they have it out for Elon. They really do. And this is not, by the way, I'm saying all this. I'm not going to sit here and give some sort of reflexive, glowing endorsement to Elon Musk. Never have, never will. I'm concerned about his business interests in China. I'm concerned about that, the reliance that he and Tesla have on China. I'm worried that that could have an effect on his business and his decision-making, especially as it relates to free speech. What kind of leverage does the Chinese Communist Party have over him? Those are all outstanding questions. And so that remains. But there is no question that Biden views Elon Musk as an enemy to destroy. And now we get a headline today. Just before 4 p.m., Wall Street Journal. Department of Justice, Securities and Exchange Commission, SEC, investigate Tesla over secret glass house project, they write. Manhattan federal prosecutors are now investigating Tesla's use of company funds on a secret project that has been described internally as a house for chief executive Elon Musk. People familiar with the matter said. Really? Wow, that sounds scandalous. A place for Elon Musk to sleep? You're investigating a place for him? If a glass house sounds weird, I'll be honest, and I'm sure there's some, throwing stones analogies and jokes you can make here, but the U.S. Attorney's Office for the Southern District of New York has sought information about personal benefits paid to Musk, how much Tesla spent on the project, which called for a spacious glass structure to be built in the Austin, Texas area, and what it was for, the people said. Oh, so this is all just speculation. They don't know. The Wall Street Journal was the first to report in July that Tesla board members had investigated whether company resources were misused on the secret effort, known internally as Project 42, and whether Musk was personally involved. The outcome of Tesla's internal investigation couldn't be learned. The Securities and Exchange Commission has also opened a civil investigation into Project 42 and is seeking similar information from the company, one of the people said. The Southern District of New York and the Securities and Exchange Commission investigations are in their early stages, and they may not lead to formal allegations of wrongdoing. Yeah, that's funny, but they're being leaked, aren't they? So they've launched investigations. They're trying to damage Elon Musk, trying to hurt him. This comes out at 3:51, so shortly before the markets close, right? What is the point of all? The point is to hurt him. The point is to try and take him down. And this keeps happening and happening and happening over and over and over again with all sorts of opponents of the regime. Opponents of the regime. Here's another one for you. These aren't Elon Musk. These are normal people. Citing the Catholic news agency's coverage on this because it's a lot fairer than anything you're going to get on CNN. A headline, pro-life activists found guilty of obstructing abortion clinic access in D.C. Wow. What did they do that deserved a federal government crackdown? Well, let's see. 5 pro-life advocates who entered a Washington, D.C. abortion facility as a part of a rescue, in quotes, in October of 2020 were convicted of felony charges Tuesday afternoon, a ruling that at least one activist plans to appeal. All 5 defendants, including 28-year-old director of activism for the Progressive Anti-Abortion Uprising, Lauren Handy, more on them in a moment, I'll tell you more about them, were convicted of felony conspiracy against rights and felony violation of the Freedom of Access to Clinic Entrances Act. Each person can face up to 11 years in prison. 11 years. And a fine of up to $350,000. The FACE Act was signed into law by President Bill Clinton in 1994. It prohibits individuals from accosting or obstructing women seeking abortions at abortion clinics, as well as the destruction or defacement of abortion clinics themselves. In addition to Handy, 67-year-old John Hinshaw, 61-year-old Heather Adoni, 52-year-old William Goodman, and 25-year-old Herb Garrity were all convicted. The Department of Justice claims that the activists engaged in a conspiracy to create a blockade at the Cesare Sant'Angelo abortion facility and prevent the clinic from offering services. A news release from the DOJ stated the activists used physical obstruction to injure, intimidate, and interfere with the clinic's employees and a patient because they were providing or obtaining reproductive health services. That is, they were committing abortions. That's what they're trying to say. According to the DOJ, 4 of the 5 activists who were convicted, along with others, forcefully entered the clinic and set about blockading 2 clinic doors using their bodies, furniture, chains, and ropes. The news release added that the activities were live-streamed. Handy, who organized the demonstration, testified in court that she viewed an undercover video of the facility released by the pro-life group Live Action that she believed showed abortionists refusing to offer care to a child who survived an abortion attempt. Her lawyers argued that Handy was not trying to halt reproductive health care, but it was instead motivated by her belief that illegal activities were actually taking place at the facility. All 5 defendants were immediately incarcerated, though sentencing is yet to take place. So now they're immediately incarcerated. Now they're serving time in jail already. They're looking at upwards of 11 years in prison for engaging in what should be First Amendment protected speech, opposing the death and dismemberment of children, they're on the side of decency. And the Biden administration wants to destroy them. That's the plan. They can't prosecute street crime in D.C. The D.C. U.S. Attorney, Matthew Graves, turns down nearly 70% of all arrests in D.C. And so if you're wondering why your city is a lot more violent if you live in Washington, D.C., or if you work in the city, you can thank Matthew Graves. You can thank the lefties who run the crap show of a justice system in the nation's capital. And it's those same people who are destroying the lives of people who are standing up for life, pro-life activists. Now, that progressive anti-abortion uprising, in case you haven't heard of this before, kind of an interesting name, that's the reason they refer to themselves as progressive is because they are a socialist organization. They're not ashamed of it. They say it on their website, and they emphasize they are hardcore left-wingers, without a doubt. But they recognize life and respect for life. So they call themselves the Progressive Anti-Abortion Uprising. One of the arguments that they make is that there are plenty of corporations in America who go along with committing all of these abortions because they want to keep women at work. The last thing they want is a woman taking off for months on end to take maternity leave to attend to her newborn child. So they encourage and they subsidize abortion. They figure they'd rather commit more abortions than have a mother take maternity leave. And for those companies that offer paternity leave as well, they've got the same incentives. They want to keep people in the office. They don't want them to get away. And so Progressive Anti-Abortion Uprising points this out. They're upset with corporate America, and of course I am too, because it's totally cruel and callous. Sacrifice that life. Stay at work. It's nuts. It's totally nuts. And so every single person, it's just remarkable. I mean, Julie Kelly does such a good job of documenting all of this. They are trying to crush everybody. The Proud Boys, January 6th defendants, grandmas. They're charging new people. They're still making arrests. They have over 1,000 people that they've already arrested for the events of January 6, 2021. Has a riot ever been? Has any demonstration, I mean, this is a combo, demonstration, riot. Has an event like this in American history ever been treated with this much aggression by law enforcement? Because if 2020 had any sort of parallels, they'd still be pursuing the people who tried to siege the White House while Donald Trump was in it. Was there any such extensive effort? No, there wasn't. At all. They set fire to St. John's Church. The Secret Service had to move Donald Trump to a bunker in the White House. And we pretend like that event, we, meaning the media, pretends like that event never occurred. And to the extent that they talk about it at all, it's to mock Trump for having to be moved to the bunker in the first place. That's the way they treat it. And of course, they remember Mark Milley's involvement in all of that? After Donald Trump leaves the White House, he walks across the Lafayette Square to go to St. John's to stand there in solidarity with the church and to support the church in the wake of the destruction there. And Mark Milley walked with him. They scolded Mark Milley for that. How dare you lend the military's credibility, your stars, how dare you do that to Donald Trump and his, quote, publicity stunt? Do you remember this? Donald Trump on the side of decency. And also the commander-in-chief. Who's Mark Milley? Mark Milley works for Trump. If Trump says, Mark Milley, start hopping on one foot and don't stop until I tell you to, he better be hopping like a bunny. Like, just keep going. That's the way it works. That's the way it works. You don't like it? Leave. He's in the military. Walk across the street with Trump. Hey, walk with me. Shut your mouth, thoroughly modern Milley, and just walk. That's it. That's it. And then, so the biggest scandal of that day, what was the biggest scandal? It wasn't the destruction of America's Capitol. It wasn't the siege on the White House. It wasn't the burning of St. John's Church. No, it was the efforts to try and quell the riot. That was the scandal. How dare you try and stop the riot? Who do you think you are? And it was shaming Mark Milley for walking alongside the commander-in-chief of the United States of America to stand up in solidarity with a church that had just been burned by the lunatics out in front of the White House. Well, there's a headline here out of Fox. House Republican leaders want to launch the Biden impeachment inquiry next month, sources say. But the reporting also suggests that McCarthy's kind of trying to distract the base from something else that he's failing on. It's all very interesting. We're going to get into some of the details coming up with Congressman Andrew Clyde from Georgia. He'll join us next on the Vince Coglianese Show. Good afternoon to you. 5:35 now. News Talk 105.9 WMAL, where we are making sense of the news. You can join us today at 888-630-9625, 888-630-WMAL. Joining us now is the Congressman from Georgia's 9th Congressional District, Representative Andrew Clyde. He's also a member of the House Appropriations Committee and the Freedom Caucus, of course. Congressman, great to have you back with us, sir.
Well, thank you, Vince. It's always great to be with you, too.
Very, very nice to talk to you. Let me first talk about your efforts to go after all of this election meddling that the left is doing. I know you're trying to introduce a new piece of legislation on this subject. Tell me what that is.
What that is?
Yes, sir. The defund. You want to defund partisan prosecutors?
Absolutely. We are going to introduce into the Appropriations Committee under Commerce, Justice, Science, which is the appropriation for the Justice Department, 2 amendments, and they are aimed at defunding the prosecution of any presidential candidate prior to the 2024 election. Because, our country is not a banana republic. We are a representative republic. We don't throw our political opponents in jail. And that's exactly what's happening here. You're seeing the party in power using the authority of the Department of Justice to weaponize it against their political opponents. And that's simply not acceptable. So we are going to defund that effort. And we do that through the appropriations process. I'm on the Approps Committee. And we're going to do that and say that no funds can be used on the prosecution. They can investigate all they want. They just can't prosecute until after the 2024 election. And that goes for both federal and state. Now, the way we do it at the state level and local level is we just eliminate all federal funding to that entity if they choose to go ahead and try to prosecute a presidential candidate.
Yeah, so for instance, if the Fulton County, Georgia prosecutor's office is receiving federal grant money, that grant money disappears if they're going to continue to prosecute candidates for federal office.
That's exactly correct. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So because you're making this a part of the appropriations process, Congressman, does that increase the likeliness that it would actually pass both the House and Senate?
Yes, it certainly does. Once it gets into the base bill of an appropriation, then it's going to be a lot harder to take it out. And this is the bill that is a must-pass bill. It has to fund. Our government has to be funded, and it has to move forward in order for our government to work.
Yes.
And so that is what has to happen. And so when you have must-pass bills, then it gives you a greater opportunity to get in good legislation, especially when you're in the majority, that is.
Well, that's for sure. So one of the things that we started the year under the impression might happen is that we'd get 12 independent appropriations bills, all simple to understand bills that were put before the American people and that Republicans would consider, and they'd all be done in regular order. Is that actually happening? My impression is it's not.
Well, the process is most of the way down the road. We've got 10 of the 12 bills have gone through committee. One of those 10 has already made it to the House floor and has been approved in the House floor. That happened in July.
Okay.
We've about 12 legislative days here in September. So I know that the defense bill is going to come up the very first week we come back. Honestly, I think all of the bills should come to the floor, and we should do our work, and we should not go home until it's done. That's what we told the American people. That's what we promised them, and I'm all for that. So I think we should stay there and work through this process until all 12 are completely finished and gone, the last 2 through the committee process and then through the House floor process.
There is a report from Fox News today that says that Kevin McCarthy keeps floating the possible impeachment of Joe Biden as a way to appease conservatives who are basically watching whether or not McCarthy is going to strike a funding deal with Joe Biden next month. It's a way to kind of keep them distracted. As if he's talking about impeachment, maybe they won't pay so much attention to the fact that he came up with a spending deal with Biden. What do you make of that?
Well, that's a shiny object that we're not going to go for. I mean, any funding, any continuing resolution that is a clean or a blind or resolution basically continues the policies and the funding levels of Nancy Pelosi, and that's not going to fly with conservatives. That message has been sent to Speaker McCarthy loud and clear. If we do have a continuing resolution, it's going to depend on how long it is. Maybe it's a month so that the appropriations process can actually have 12 individual bills. If that's the case, then it's going to have policy in there and spending levels that we Republicans agree on. That means you're going to have border security like H.R. 2. That means you're going to have to deal with the weaponization of the federal government, the Department of Justice,
yes,
the FBI. And you're going to have to deal with the wokeness in the military. I mean, these are Republican priorities. They're policy priorities that no Republican should accept a CR without these in the base bill. That's what we voted on when we passed H.R. 2. We all voted on that. So that should be part. And I would not vote for a CR that doesn't have that in it.
Are there enough Republicans in your conference who have the courage to actually vote to defund abusive government agencies, though? Because, we hear a lot, Congressman, from lawmakers who obviously speak a good game. They're great at criticizing the government. Are they willing to take it the next step and actually bring some consequences to the people who are abusing their power?
Well, I would love to tell you yes. I think there are. I'm an eternal optimist here, but I really don't know the answer to that question. It's going to take a lot of work.
Sure.
Any good bill really takes a lot of work, and I'm here to put that work in and to make sure that it does pass, because this, in my mind, is a fight that we have to win. This cannot be allowed. This kind of election interference, where the judicial branch of our government, the Department of Justice, becomes the election interference arm of the Democrat Party? No, absolutely not. And American people are sick of this all talk and no action. This is action.
Congressman, they're rigging the election before our very eyes. They've scheduled every possible trial for early next year in the heat of the presidential election. And they've announced all of these indictments years after the events that supposedly occurred. It's all quite obviously scheduled to interfere in our election.
Oh, most certainly. And, if they would have treated Hunter Biden with this kind of expediency, Hunter Biden would be in jail by now, a long time ago.
Yes.
But this is a two-tiered system of justice that must be torn down, and the appropriations process is one way to do it.
Can you tell us about impeachment, if you will? My understanding is that there was a members-only conference call Monday night, that's Fox's reporting, with Speaker Kevin McCarthy, where he indicated that they're hoping to push forward, that you all are hoping to push forward with an impeachment inquiry beginning next month into Joe Biden. What can you tell us?
Well, I would certainly agree with that, an impeachment inquiry to bring all the facts out. The Oversight Committee has done a phenomenal job of bringing forth incredible evidence of criminal conduct by President Biden and by Hunter Biden, literally using taxpayer dollars to leverage payments from foreign entities, foreign businesses directly to the Biden crime family. It's incredible. In fact, if people go to clyde.house.gov/Biden crime family, we have up on our website there massive amounts of documentation, including the FBI's FD 1023 that outlines the pay for play of if you don't fire the prosecutor, you don't get the $1 billion.
Yes.
The incredible amount of evidence is there. It's up on our website, and people really need to see that and need to understand how absolutely compromised and how criminal the activity is of this president and his family.
Yeah, I mean, how many bank accounts do you need? How many suspicious activity reports need to be flagged? How many payments need to be flowing into the Biden family? And how many actions need to be taken by Joe Biden before anybody gets a clue here?
Right, over 150 suspicious activity reports, 20 shell companies. You know, I mean, the financial. I'm looking forward to the financial guy's testimony. You know, Eric. I can't remember his last name, but
Schwerin.
I'm waiting. Schwerin, that's it. Thank you.
Yeah,
I can't wait till he comes before the Oversight Committee, and we get the information that he has to offer. I mean, all of this points directly at a compromised president and a president who has used taxpayer dollars to leverage financial gain for himself.
Meanwhile, there's another component here to return to their election meddling using the power of government right now that I'd like to see more members of Congress address. And I'm always grateful, by the way, for you coming on and talking about these issues. But you know, I think what you're seeing among a lot of voters right now is frustration that we are identifying all of these problems, but there don't seem to be a lot of people presenting like offensive ways to confront them. And one way I might suggest is that the right be more serious about bringing criminal charges against people who deserve them. I mean, if you are abusing your power in government to hurt the American people, you probably need to be a part of some sort of federal RICO charge or something. I mean, there are clearly criminal activities going on here and people not paying the consequences. I'm not even really seeing criminal referrals. Do you think some kind of action like that could begin to take place?
Well, I think with this Department of Justice under Attorney General Merrick Garland, you're not going to see any of that. It's not going to go anywhere. We could send all the criminal referrals we want, and I don't think he would do anything with them. And that just shows you how corrupt our Department of Justice is, which means that they need to be taken down as well,
yes,
piece by piece, and reassembled, put back together in the way that they should operate. And that is with equal justice under law, just like it says above the Supreme Court. And that is not happening right now. And so, you know, to see any sort of prosecution of a Democrat or, you know, Hunter Biden for that matter. I mean, Hunter Biden's the greatest example that you can see right there. I mean, you have the sweetheart plea deal that fell apart. I mean, and then you've got the special prosecutor. I mean, it goes on and on and on.
Right. And I'm not looking for what the left is doing, which is to cook up phony charges. What I'm looking to do is hold people accountable for things they've actually done. When the CIA and the FBI compel the social media companies to censor the internet on behalf of getting Joe Biden elected, it seems to me somebody should be charged for doing that. You know, and I kind of wonder, Congressman, as you deal with the appropriations process, is the intel community, facing some scrutiny about what kind of money they receive for all of the abuse that they've meted out on the American people?
They're all receiving scrutiny, and that is a great thing about having the majority. So I look forward to every time we can cut someone's budget, especially when they're not doing what they're supposed to be doing and they're not following the Constitution and they're not serving the American people. That's what the federal government is here to do, is to serve the American people, not the other way around. And I tell the folks in Georgia's 9th District that all the time. The government is here to serve you, not you here to serve the government. And it's a true mess under this administration.
Yeah.
But we're going to clean it up through the appropriations process. And honestly, having a different chief executive officer, a different president, is going to do a whole lot more than, along that line.
Yeah. In the meantime, you guys do have some power, though, and we're all praying that you use it well. Lastly, Congressman, before I let you go here, I know that this storm, Idalia, is working its way in part through Georgia. My understanding is your district is actually in the northeast of the state. Are you feeling any of the effects of this?
No, we are actually not feeling effects of this at all, at least not from what I have seen.
Okay, good.
It's, thankfully it has not come through the 9th District, just maybe a little wind, and we've seen some rain, but just nothing that you would say is very serious. But we just need to keep those who have gone through the brunt of this in our thoughts and our prayers.
Big time.
That's for sure.
No question. Congressman Andrew Clyde, thank you, sir, for your time today. Appreciate that. Yesterday, towards the end of the program, I was telling you about the saga of a 12-year-old in Colorado Springs, 12-year-old boy named Jaiden, who was kicked out of class by the administration there at his middle school for wearing a Gadsden flag patch on his backpack. It's, snake, yellow flag, don't tread on me. You've probably seen it a million times. A great piece of American history. They kicked him out of school, and they said that it has origins with slavery. They're so stupid. That's what they thought it was. It's not related to slavery at all. It's related to the American Revolution. Well, the update on that story is a good one, but it only took immense public pressure from normal Americans. Headline from the Colorado Gazette: after going viral, Colorado Springs School says student can display Gadsden flag. After the video spread Tuesday of the Colorado Springs school administrator allegedly explaining to a mother, what do you mean allegedly? We saw it. They don't understand English. And her son that the boy could not return to class unless he left his backpack, which had a Gadsden flag patch on it. The school's board of directors called an emergency meeting to walk back that decision. An emergency meeting. Oh my gosh. We got caught being morons. Here's Jaiden. He recorded a video today. And put out a statement for those who have been interested in his story. That would include us.
Hey guys, today was a good day, kind of. When I got to school, the kids were really hyped up because they saw me on Twitter, and kids are putting "Don't tread on me" on their locker. Well, at least my new made friends, because I'm big on Twitter, and now they like me all of a sudden. But
the kids started a revolution.
Teachers, on the other hand, I got some dirty looks, that's for sure.
I'm sorry, just to be clear on what he said, it was the teachers.
But the teachers, on the other hand, I got some dirty looks, that's for sure. They're definitely not happy with me. But other than that, it was pretty good.
It was pretty good. Other than that, it was pretty good. Kind of started a little revolution on campus. All the kids are all using Gadsden flags now. The teachers are all angry. Why are the teachers angry? Why are they angry? He did a service, didn't he? He educated everybody at the school. He educated the children. Now people know more about the American Revolution. He says it's 7th grade. He's studying the American Revolution right now. The teachers who were too stupid to know better before, they now know better. They're not going to make that mistake again in the future. Why are they so judgmental? Why are they so angry that he prevailed, that he defended his family's honor, his country's honor? He held up the First Amendment. He taught them something about the American Revolution. It's awesome. He's a modern-day Paul Revere. Warning us. The morons are coming. The morons are coming. God bless you, Jaiden. Good work. Good work to his mom, too, and that family for standing up for our country. The great one, Mark Levin, stands up for our country every night right here on WMAL, and he's up next.